I'm Denise Griffiths, and this is your partner in Success Radio. My guest today on your partner in Success Radio is Kym Insana. She is the founder of AlwaysOn Digital and a multi-million-dollar digital marketing expert who made a bold pivot from corporate advertising to entrepreneurship, and we'll talk a little bit about that. This episode today is sponsored by your mind stylist, Roberta Fernandez. Excuse me. As entrepreneurs, we focus on strategy and growth, but what about the mindset blocks that are holding you back? Roberta is a board-certified hypnotist and emotional intelligence specialist, and she helps high-performing individuals and teams clear limiting beliefs, we all have them, and rewire their subconscious for success. So if you're ready to remove mental barriers to your next level, visit yourmindstylist.com to restyle your mind and scale your business. Now back to my guest. Kym Insana is going to help us understand what happens when ambition no longer fits the structure you're in, because she's known for the mantra that you can work hard, have career success, and still have the family life you desire, a belief that shaped how she built her company. And she intentionally designed AlwaysOn Digital to offer flexibility and balance, especially, this is important, especially for working parents. And many of her team members are highly skilled mothers seeking many meaningful careers with non-traditional schedules. Good morning, Kym, and welcome back to your Partner in Success Radio. You were here earlier this year. You were in the virtual green room. I couldn't remember if it was December or January, but it wasn't that long ago. And we talked about pivoting ambition, building a successful career without sacrificing family or balance. Such an important topic. And it's good to have you back to continue the conversation.
Thank you, Denise. I'm so happy to be here and be able to speak with you again.
Well, I remember when you were here last, I remember saying this hour was not enough. You've got to come back. And you were very gracious about saying, okay. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. But what you're talking, I think we're talking today about niching down. So I'm going to get out of your way and let you explain why that's important.
Yeah, thank you. So we have made the decision this year to niche down a bit and focus on a couple of, ideal customer types. And it's been a struggle to, change your mindset to get there, because when you go out and you start a business and you think, well, who should our customers be? It's very easy to say, well, our customers are everyone. And you can make a business that way, and you can certainly have growth. But when you become a specialist in something, people tend to realize that you're the expert and they want to come to you for that. So, for example, if, for our example, we're an advertising business, if we solely focus on maybe the tourism industry, people may think, well, wow, they're tourism experts because we do this every day, all day. Versus if we're running 12 different categories, people may come and say, well, what makes you more qualified than the next business? Because, they only do that and you're doing all these different things. How do I know you know what's best for our business? How do I know that you've experienced this? Like, they never want to be the first one. No one wants to be the experiment where you've never run this type of advertiser before and you're not sure what will work for them. And really, we started to see a lot of success when we niched down a little bit. And it's hard because mentally you may think, well, I could end up losing revenue by doing this. And if I only focus on one category, there's lost revenue, there's lost opportunity. If you're a salesperson, you think, well, I don't have as much to call on. And so it is a big mindset change for folks to believe in it and say, no, we will see more of a return in the long run. And maybe you're getting more out of each of those advertisers than you would if you had, 30 different types of advertisers, because you become trusted and people are willing to commit more to you versus that initial smaller test, but they still feel like they need to diversify because they don't feel like you necessarily have the expertise that they're looking for.
And that makes sense. It really does, because, and I've been on websites. I'm a web developer by trade.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on websites where I'm thinking, where do you want me to start?
Mm-hmm.
You're not telling me what's in it for me. You're giving me a whole lot of options. but I don't want a whole lot of options. I want to know what's in it for me, specifically what's in it for me. That's why I'm here. And I think that's where we lose a lot of people. They're just like, I'm too confused, and they move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about the websites, when we first started our business, and we've had a lot of, learnings over the years. And, we had a website and I took it to someone and they said, I don't understand what you do. It seems like you're saying you do everything. So I don't understand what I would come to you for because it was hard for someone to make that decision on, what do they need, from us. And I kind of think it's the same way, you go to a diner and you get a 30-page menu and you're like, well, what should I get? There's too many options here. I'm confused. I don't know which direction to go versus, going to a place that specializes in things. And I love when either the waiter or the menu even says like, this is our specialty. This is what we're the best at. And you would tend to go towards that item because you feel like, oh, they must do this really well if it's their specialty. And
Exactly, and when you
yeah,
go to the restaurant, and I've been
yeah,
in places that, you open it and they're greasy, they don't they're
yeah,
they're kinda icky looking,
yes, that
and
too.
I'm just natively suspicious about everything, and the minute I look at that, I'm thinking, "How much of this is fresh? How much of it is rotted?
Yes,
What the heck is their bottom line here?" I mean, they really have all of these things in stock? And the answer is no, they don't, but yeah, those don't make any sense to me at a logical level at all.
and to your point about whether it being fresh or not, I think the same way, we are in an AI world now. So if you have a company that's doing everything for everyone, there has to be automation in that, a lot of automation. And then maybe that automation, lacks experience because I had seen, AI is essentially taking the past and that data, but it can't look ahead and what's going to happen. It's going off old information essentially, right? I mean, the AI
Yeah,
experts will probably come
that's
after me,
correct.
but that's
Mhm.
the
No, you're
reality is that
right. You're
it's
absolutely right.
pulling from the past. And so when we start to, over automate things because we're trying to do everything instead of just focusing on something and using your expertise there, you could still use AI and automation, but your expertise is playing a bigger role there because it's your wheelhouse. It's what you do all the time. And I think that's where, going back to is this food fresh and how do they have all this on hand? Like, this doesn't seem humanly possible to get a good result or a good meal out of this. I feel like it's the same thing when companies are too broad.
Oh, I look at food poisoning instantly. Like I said, I'm just as suspicious about
Yeah.
I'm going to replace that. I'm curious about
Yeah.
just about everything, but when you look at all these things and I'm thinking they can't possibly this restaurant isn't big enough to house everything that, they need for those ingredients. It's just
Yeah.
and people still they keep going there, but I'm thinking, no, I'm gonna go home and make a gumbo. I'm not
Yeah.
eating here."
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So, I mean, you said you started niching down. Why? Why did you do that? Was it something that you just felt internally or I don't know, not internally, I don't think that's the word, I'm instinctively that you needed to do?
So actually, no, it wasn't something that we necessarily came to on our own. I think it was a combination of past experience, and then I was actually in some like leadership program that I attended, and they were really talking heavily about it and really pushing, some businesses our size into doing it because for us, we are a woman owned small business and we are competing with large corporations that have way bigger resources and are much larger. And so it's hard for us to compete against them. So, what can we do that makes us different than them, that we could do better than them? And we can't, the answer is not everything. It has to be one thing or two things, and then sticking with those two things. And so, I have been part of corporations that did have channel specific things or like created almost like a sub company to, just work on advertisers like that or of a different, one channel or type or category. But it was really having this leadership summit that I was part of and saying, wow, okay, like others are doing this that are our size and they're seeing success. We should rethink that. Like maybe there's something more there. Um, but it's hard. It's a very hard pivot because your gut is to not turn away business or not to go after the easy money. And it's not that we're completely saying no to anything that comes through because we work with agencies that may bring dollars that are from a different category. But the idea is that we're working with those agencies that are part of our niche down, like agencies of a certain size. So it's it is a challenge to not, go and say, oh, maybe I can win this business, but we won't be getting anywhere if we continue to do that and not focus on what our specialty is.
So basically, what you're saying is that we do it all approach just isn't sustainable.
Not for companies our size. Maybe if you're a large corporation, but then even when you're a larger company, they still divide up people into teams so that they become experts. So even, when you're looking at competition, they're still doing that within their organizations. So I agree. I think it's not as sustainable to be everything to everyone. I guess if unless you're a diner, but other than that, and people keep coming. The
I
3 a.m.
was
crowd.
hungry until I
Yeah,
started.
exactly.
Now I'm thinking, no, I'll just have a sandwich.
Yeah.
But yeah, Always On Digital has grown into a multi-million-dollar agency by focusing on paid media execution.
Mhm.
So I guess my question is, how did specialization become a growth strategy for your business? And this is what I really want to know. What advantages has that focus given your clients? Because now I'm guessing that you're focusing on them and not scattershotting all over the place. Not that you ever did, but it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So they would know that we are looking at things that are best for their type of business. So if you're a a destination marketing organization and you're looking for visitors to your region, you want to know that we focus on executing paid ads in the areas that are best for attracting visitors to a destination. So maybe, a perfect example is, are we testing out ChatGPT because more users are using that to search and plan trips than Google, for example? Like, are we making those adjustments in the way we run paid media because we know that their trend is there? Versus if we were just running things for everyone, we wouldn't necessarily be digging into something that was a consumer behavior specific to people looking to travel. And
I didn't realize that about ChatGPT. If you had asked me, I would have said perplexity.
yeah, so and maybe it's different for everyone. I can tell you, we personally, I started using it a couple of years ago to plan some trips, and the more research we started to dig in, and what's offered from an advertising standpoint, and what things are out there, even with Reddit for travel, like there's just different things that people are using. And so we try to, one, find something that does offer advertising, because some of the native things, you can't advertise on yet. But then, what are these directions that consumers are indicated into where they're going to be and where they're going to be making these decisions?
Well, that makes sense. And I'm with you. I've been using chat for quite a while. I've been using AI for quite a while. Right now, I'm absolutely in love with Claude. Don't ask me
Oh,
why, because it gets very technical. But
yeah,
I
he's
mean,
my favorite. Actually, he's my new favorite.
yeah, I said on my podcast the other day, I said, look, I have been married twice. I'll never do that again. I have learned my lesson. I am permanently single, but I would marry Claude if I could, or
Yeah.
at least get engaged. And he just laughed at me. I said, you think I'm joking? I'm really not. So, but yeah, I love
Yeah.
Claude.
For sure. I have abandoned, ChatGPT for Claude,
Yeah,
personally. I
me
changed
too.
my plans and everything, upgraded. So,
Yeah,
I've created a new journey and maybe, the next guy shows up, who knows? And we all make the switch.
I know. I know. Claude is just wonderful. And I mentioned perplexity because, and I'll tell you how I use it because you mentioned search.
Yeah.
I do use it for research and search. Like, just as a for instance, I get hundreds of podcast requests every month, hundreds. And some of them are, I should pay attention to, and some I shouldn't. So I will go to Perplexity and say, listen, this person or this agency is recommending this person. Tell me about this person, who they are, what they do, what their personality is like. And then my final question is, would they be a good guest for your partner in success
Mm,
radio? And I mean, within a minute, I've got oh, heck yeah. And here's why and links. Or, Denise, this is not really in your wheelhouse. You may want to give this one a pass. It's very helpful. And I've told people this when I'm doing the pre interviews, they'll say, well, we sent you our one sheet, which, by the way, I don't use. They're beautiful, but they're
yeah.
biased. They're
Yeah.
telling me what you want me to know. They don't tell me anything I want to know.
Yeah.
So I will just bypass that, and I've had several people say, "You did what? What's Perplexity?" "Well, I looked you up on Perplexity." And you're gonna laugh. "What did they say about me?" They get very nervous. And I'll say, "It's all good. I've got it in a document. You want." "Oh, yeah." I just send it on. So
That's funny. I have to start doing that. That's actually I'm thinking of that also from a hiring standpoint. Tell
exactly.
me
Yep.
about people. I used to always Google, but now with AI, you could dig deeper.
You can, and, Perplexity has never said, just for those of you going, "Oh, I don't want her to do that."
Mhm.
It doesn't give me anything icky. It just says here
Yeah.
because it knows my voice, it knows my show,
Mhm.
I've trained it, and it tells me, "Yes, yes, no, this is really not something your audience would really like."
Mm.
I already knew that, but I wanted to make sure and see if there's something maybe I missed. It's very helpful.
No, that's good. I will add that to my list.
Yeah, perplexity.ai. So anyway, many business owners struggle to turn down those opportunities, as you said, and you've been willing to say no to revenue that wasn't the right fit. And that's, I think, one of the most difficult things for people to do. They're like, I've got a mortgage. I've got people I
Mhm.
need, I mean, there's always that, but how do you get past that? How do you help people get past that? Because I'll be honest with you, I've taken jobs that I didn't wanna take because I do have a mortgage. I've got cats. I eat from Walmart,
Yeah.
they eat from Chewy's,
Yeah.
we have decisions to make, and almost always, it wasn't a good fit or it was a bad decision or I just got in, got out, and hoped I never heard from them again, and that doesn't mean I didn't do a good job, it just wasn't a good fit for me.
Yeah, and I always felt in sales when I was an individual contributor that it was better not to take the bad money, to your point, because the bad money usually prevented something better from happening. And it is hard to do that. And I can't speak for someone who maybe needs that deal to make their mortgage payment. And, I don't want to give bad advice from that standpoint. But however, if you have the opportunity to just hold on for something better and really show that you can be an expert, it's easier to win something when people have seen you've done it before and that you're good at it and you've done it consistently. And that's why people ask for case studies. They're not asking, you'd have a case study because you've done it and you've done it well. That's why they want to know how many times have you done this? Or, do you have case studies? Can you prove success? And when you can, because you've done the process, rinse, wash, repeat over and over again and done it well, then naturally, not only do people come to you and it's an easier sell, but then you can start to get referrals. Then you start to put yourself in the conferences and the places that these people are instead of wasting your time trying to be spread too thin. The jack of all trades, master of none. And you focus in on there and you'll have more opportunity if you can do it well. And by well, I mean like the actual performance of whatever it is that your business does. So if you're good at it and you have the, expertise, um, I always suggest trying to focus in on it. And it's funny because when I was creating business cards years ago at Always on Digital, so I've been in the space 26 years. We had a PR team. They were going to create the business cards and they said, we're going to put digital marketing expert on there. And I said, oh, no, no, no. We're not putting that on my business cards. I don't want people to think that I think I'm an expert at something. Like I can't call myself that. And they said, well, if you've done something for over 20 years, over and over, and you've been good at it, you're an expert. You can put that
Yep.
on your card. Like, you can own that. And, I just didn't want people to think I had this giant ego. Like, I feel like a fraud putting it there, but it's like, I have made my career doing this. I built a business. We have the revenue. Like, it's okay to say you're an expert at something. And, if you believe it, people will believe it too. And in the proof is in the pudding, obviously, with you get your renewals and the clients come back and then they make referrals. But um, it's okay to net down and niche down like that, and focus in because you can really shine with your expertise.
Is that a woman thing? Because I was reluctant for the longest kind of time to, toot my own horn.
I think it is. We always have this imposter syndrome, like
Oh,
they
yeah.
couldn't possibly be a CEO because they're supposed to look like this or do this, or especially for us, we're this hybrid where people work. Some people work part time for us, some people work in an office, some people don't, and they want to be there at their kids' games and things like that. Like, oh, because you're spending some of your time being a mom as well as working, you could never go far, or you could never grow into this role. Like, we put this into our heads where, um, you know, if you didn't see that other stuff and you just saw the work we did, would you question, whether we have the right to fit into those roles? And probably not. And it's something that I also work with some of the people that I work with. Like, they feel that. They feel the need to apologize. I'm sorry, I have to take my kid to the dentist this morning. And I said, you don't need to say that. There's no apology. We don't need to, we got to stop apologizing for regular things that we're doing. You're taking care of your child and doing something for them, and you're still getting the work done. Why is there an apology?
And that
So,
was important, you're getting the work done, so it doesn't matter
mhm,
to me.
yeah.
This was a COVID thing, and I'll never forget it, but it didn't bother me because my team is all contractors. They don't Most of
Mhm,
them don't live anywhere near me. In fact, none of them live anywhere near me. But we all work at our own pace.
mhm,
I may work at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not unusual, but I do find out about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm worn out. I
yeah.
have to walk away, I'm looking at code, and I'm just blanking completely out, and I finally realized that that's one of my rhythms, and I walk off, and I
Mm,
may go do something different, I may walk the dog, I may read a book, I may just stand outside and look blankly at a pecan tree, which has
mhm,
happened,
yeah.
but I work with my own rhythms, and I think that a lot of people, given permission to work at their own rhythm, would probably be enormously creative and very impactful.
Mhm, yeah.
Do you
And I
find
feel
that?
Yeah, and I feel like we wait for someone else to give us permission instead of giving permission to ourselves first. Um, and I even feel that way with, like, working out and exercise, and COVID really helped with that. But don't we want people to be healthy and allow them that time to go take a walk, or, do a little personal exercise that works for them, whether it be in the morning or during the day, during their lunchtime? Like, happier and healthier people are better employees overall. So why wouldn't we, let that just be something that they don't have to ask permission for, that they can
I
put that on their
agree.
calendar for themselves? We used to allow
Right.
smoking breaks without permission. Why can't we allow health breaks?
Huh, I didn't even think about that. Um, and, I'm here by myself. My office is in my home. It's deliberately quiet because I am an introvert. I'm
Mhm,
not shy, but I'm an introvert, and I keep it deliberately quiet and calm in here because that's how I function best. But if I get stressed or tired or I'm being pushed pulled, and that happens because I allowed it, by the way,
mhm,
my creativity just says, "I'll see you later. You
yeah,
calm down, I'll come back when you're
mhm,
ready." And it happens. We just burn ourselves out trying to be everything. We need to give ourselves permission to say, "Take a break. Stop. Take a break. Do whatever
yeah.
you need to do to be healthy."
And that's where the best ideas come in. Um, when you're taking that break, like, I find sometimes, the light bulb goes off for me in the shower. I'm like, I need a,
Oh,
like,
all the time.
waterproof notebook, or
Yep.
something so I can write this down so I don't forget it when I get out.
I take bathtub
Yeah.
crayons in with me.
Oh, there you go.
I
See?
do,
That's a
'cause
great way to do it.
it
Oh my
works.
god,
I will
that's
take
brilliant.
my showers are hot enough to steam broccoli,
Yeah,
literally, which is okay because I have very high ceilings in there.
yeah.
But That's where I call them God winks, Kim. Once I
Mhm.
calm down and I know that nobody's going to call me or text me or I'm safe in there, my brain can calm down. And all of a sudden, I start hearing, we all hear two voices, right? Well, oh, I'm going to do this. That's ego. Ignore that one. Oh, we can do this. That's God winks. That's something else coming from somewhere else. Going, have you thought about this? I scribble all over the inside of the shower and I have to let it, the steam dissipate for a few
Yeah.
hours. But
Yeah.
then I go back and I take pictures and I'm like, ooh, try it. Bathtub crayons, they're
That's
magic.
amazing, and I have some in my kid's bathroom, so
There
I
you go.
will.
It works. And I agree with you. If we can just walk off, find our maybe it's the bathtub. For me, it's
Mhm.
the bath and the shower. Sometimes it's walking with the dog. I fall into what I call a walking meditation.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Just find a way to calm yourself.
Yeah, I agree, and the best ideas always come up, and then I realize, "Oh, my mind is clear and things can flow."
Exactly. Or I stick my face in the refrigerator. My open refrigerator door moment. It's like, you got there. You don't know how you got there.
Don't remember what for.
Nope. But if you'll just, stay in there until the doorbell ring, no, the doors ring. But I calm down. It's like, ooh, and I can come back in here refreshed. So I deliberately go stick my face in the fridge.
Yeah,
It
change up the
works.
mood.
Yeah. So you've been willing to say no to revenue that wasn't the right fit. How did that make you feel? Did it worry you? Did it scare you? Because now obviously it's working. But did you have any serious misgivings when you said, I don't know, I'm going to let my agency down. I'm going to maybe not be able to employ as many people. How did that work for you?
So, I think in the back of my mind, I felt, well, if it doesn't work, we can always pivot. So we're not going to let this fall apart. We're going to make sure that it works somehow. So knowing that yes, we could fall back and going in a different direction if we need to was kind of a safety net. I'm not sure if that's the best advice because we should always look forward and not think, well, I could always go backwards. But um, it was kind of how I felt in, we've been successful in doing it this way, but we're going to change direction and we're confident we can be successful that way. Well, worst case scenario, if there's another pandemic or whatever, like we have the ability to go back because we have done those other things before. But we know that true growth will come from, going niche and making the right decisions and turning down revenue that doesn't work. And once you start to see a little success, it does help. Um, I will say sometimes it is harder for everyone to believe and want to adapt if you're an individual contributor. It takes a little more time because it isn't necessarily your decision that was made or your vision. And so there are challenges in getting everyone to say, "Okay, we're gonna do this," because the easy thing is going back on what you've done before. And it does worry me because I take responsibility of making sure that everyone does have a job. I don't want people to be laid off or there not to be enough or so we try to look ahead, and what is the runway of things that we would need to happen. But I also have a motivator of not wanting to go back to corporate. And so I think when you're motivated enough that your life is and your lifestyle is more important than going back to corporate, you will do everything in your power to make sure it works.
And your business was born after a corporate layoff, and you've intentionally built a company that supports, and we want to talk about this,
Mhm.
working parents and flexible schedules. So, what inspired that model? I mean, it couldn't have been easy to say, well, I'm out of a job. Now what?
Yeah, and I did start to get the wheels turning on it before they actually laid me off. And it was because I saw just so many women leaving the workforce after, having kids. And I had been in an environment early in my career, if you can call it career at that time. It was an after school high school job at a radio rep firm. And they had job shares for working mothers. And I thought that was really cool. Like they gave this hybrid situation in the late 90s, mid 90s, I guess. And I thought, well, like maybe I could do that somewhere. And every place I went throughout my career gave it a no. And then I had brought it to our CEO, then with the layoffs, they actually just put me part of it and then said, "We'll help you start that business." Um, and so, it was definitely driven personally because I had 3 kids at the time. I was struggling to be present with them. I felt like I was getting an hour with my kids a day, and it was just not the best hour. It's when they're tired and hungry and you're making dinner. So it was just a stress time. It wasn't even a great time to be with them. And then the weekends, you're trying to get everything else in. And sometimes there was work on the weekends. So it just felt like nothing was quality. Like this didn't seem like it was right. And so that's what started to drive me. But I will say, as we had initially started as focus on working mothers, um, now we've seen a little bit of a shift where people are looking to take care of elder parents. So it's not, we're kind of getting both ends of the spectrum here, and being able to be cognizant of those that may need to step in with their parents or be present if they have a hospitalization or a surgery. And like, how do we create a infrastructure that adapts to these different times in people's lives? And going back to the original statement of, if the work's getting done, does it really matter, where you are or what hours you're working, as long as we're keeping clients happy and they're acceptable to the fact that someone is there to cover. That's been a big
Exactly.
change. Hmm.
I've h I'm not suited to work in somebody else's office. As I mentioned, I'm an
Yeah.
introvert, and I don't play well with others, and I run with scissors, so I
Yeah.
had a temporary job while I was going back to school, and the little manager, owner, whatever, I can't remember now what he was, but he was a little bitty guy, and he would stand behind us as we were working and look at our screens to
Mm,
make sure we weren't playing Scrabble or
yeah.
whatever it was, and rattle the change in his pocket, and I really wanted to turn around and just punch him in the throat. I really
Yeah.
did. That was when I realized I should never, ever do anything but work for myself and clients that I have earned. And I've
Yeah.
been doing this for over 20 years now. Going into somebody else's office just makes me shudder. I can't even think about it. And there's a lot of us like that. And that
Mhm.
leads me to wonder it because if I were to apply for a job now, which I can't, I'm unemployable by
Mhm.
design, but so many women have gone, maybe they've taken 5 years, 6 years, whatever it was to raise their babies, and they've got that gap in their resume, and that's been a kind of a problem for a long time, hasn't it?
It has been. And people forget there are so many skills that you have and for being a stay-at-home mother. You are coordinating schedules, you have time management, there's just a lot of life skills that happen during that time. It's not a gap of, well, yeah, because you weren't in an office, that doesn't mean you weren't working or doing things, or, we shouldn't be belittling people for those gaps. And it is baffling because sometimes people are, maybe they're helping with PTA and they're the treasurer or they're whatever. There's so many things that happen during those gaps that aren't people don't want to transfer to the workplace from a hiring manager standpoint, where they don't think, oh, but these skills are transferable. It's how you interact with others, how you're able to handle stress and pressure. All of those things that you may have been going through during your gap does apply to an office environment or corporate.
It absolutely does, and I hear a lot about this is we're now in a gig economy, which I agree with.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
lot of people, whether they're a stay-at-home mom, which I hate that term, but it is what it is, but, whether they're at home with their family, raising their children, taking the cats to the vet,
Yeah.
whatever it is that they're doing, a lot of people now are saying, "You know what? I can upskill what I already know," and they're taking you mentioned ChatGPT, there's a lot of free information out there where you can become an expert on working with those kinds of things very, very quickly. You can get certificates. I mean, there's a lot of free information out there. You don't need to be sitting at home thinking about graham crackers and milk, which I know is demeaning, but that's what a lot of people say. Well, but you're just a stay at home mom. I want to throat punch those people.
Yeah. I agree with you. I absolutely agree, and it's I just don't even understand, yeah, the belittling of it.
Exactly.
You know, just it's just wrong.
And your family needs you,
Mhm.
and they need the best you. They don't want you to, drag in exhausted because you hate your boss like I do. I still can't stand him. I don't even know his name anymore, but
Yeah.
he pops into my head and I'm like, "Ugh." I
Yeah.
really couldn't
How
s
obnoxious.
he really was. And, I mean, and you mentioned it, you were just so exhausted that the time you did have with your kids wasn't quality time, and you're doing your best to reverse that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm I say all the time, the parent I was to my 19-year-old is different than the parent I am to my 9-year-old, but I also am trying to not make up for anything because it wasn't necessarily intentional, but spend quality time with my 19-year-old the same way and make sure that, it's purposeful.
And that makes sense. So, when you're talking with people, when you're bringing people into your company, and I'm just, if you've got some case examples, what are they looking for? What are they asking you? What are their most important needs and wants?
So, I think everyone has different things that motivate them and that would give them the balance. So, for some people, it is being able to work, 9 to 12. Those are the hours I only want to work every single day. Some folks want to be able to work the hours that work for them. So maybe it's not a committed time during the day. So they'll work more on the background. To your point, maybe they are working at 3 in the morning because they want to be able to do school pickup or volunteer at the school. And so they like to take roles that are more independent. Um, and then we have, other folks that have come to us and they like to travel and they wanna work somewhere else for a certain amount of time or, we had somebody that works for us that lived in Chicago and then was gonna take a 6 month to live in Hawaii. And they said, "Well, I'll still work the same hours, but, is that cool? Can I do something like that?" And so those have been some of the different types of things that people have come to the table with, of wanting just, like, different balance. And we don't always dig into their reasons, like, it's not really my business if they're doing it because it's children or adults or just travel. We learn about each other just being together, but it's not necessarily how we hire. We more just try to fill the gap that we have and see if we can make it work for them. And sometimes it's not a fit, but for the most part, we try to hire people that we have a reference from that we know we can trust because trust is really important in all of this too, to trust that they're doing the work. And unlike your boss that stood behind you shaking change, that's the opposite of trusting your employees. And maybe he would have had more of them stay, or, maybe you would have had a different feeling about being in a corporate office had he not done that.
Oh, the
Yeah.
turnover was relentless.
Yeah.
Nobody could stay there long.
And it's obvious, somebody who doesn't care about the people, like, if you really care about people and show them that you care about them, they will want to do it with you. You become a team, and everyone wants to work together on that team because they want the team to be successful, and if it works for their life, they don't wanna look anywhere else to work. They wanna work with you. They wanna make this work and make this happen, and they commit to it because it provides them with a balance. There's no need to go keep switching jobs. Why? You're happy. You
Yeah.
may not find that, and if you make it good enough, they don't need, they may not find that somewhere else.
Now, when you have teams, and you've mentioned that a couple of times,
Mm,
is there I'm guessing logistics, you've got somebody
mm,
who's in Hawaii, they're many hours apart. You may have somebody that's in another continent altogether. I've had that happen, and you work
mhm.
with it. Or you may have somebody that's in the office all the time. How do they work together? Do they kind of just get together and say, "Okay, I can provide this, I can do this, how can we make this work?"
Yeah, and so it's pretty much like that where people say what they can take on. We use Slack a lot. We use, whether it be some type of video conferencing. There's a lot of those whether they're scheduled or just kind of like random casual chats that happen with folks. So everyone's constantly communicating. And that is an important factor. People may be working in wherever their location is, but we find ways to over communicate as much as possible so that it feels like you are right alongside someone. And there isn't necessarily a question of, are they working on this or whatever? People are pretty clear with that. And we have some people that are so good at keeping us on schedule and having, task lists and whatever, just managing stuff. And I always say, like, please don't ever feel that you've told me something too many times. Like, if I'm not doing something, please call me out on it. Like, if I forgot it on my to-do list, sometimes um, I have to rewrite yesterday's onto today's. So just stay on me if you need to. But there are, some everybody has their skill set, and it works well together if you pair the right people.
Now, how long have you been doing this? I mean, after you started, and I know you started with, business cards, but what you're doing now, how long has that been happening?
So Always on Digital is from the inception has been focused on this work-life balance, and so we're hitting our 10-year anniversary this August. And then
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. So that has been really our mission and our purpose, and we don't see any plans to get away from that. Personally, I don't want to, because my kids have a game at 4:45 today, and I would like to be there because one of my middle school son, it's his last game. It's last game ever as a middle schooler. So to me, those are important moments to not miss. And so I don't ever want anyone to feel that we've changed the environment here for them not to have that same ability to go to their own stuff.
And that is important. It's important for your son. It's important for memories. I mean, people say, oh, I don't remember much of things, but you do.
Yeah.
You remember those important memories. A smell, cut grass. That
Hmm.
sends me all kinds of memories. It's
Yeah.
just, it's those little things that you think, nah, maybe they're not critical, but those are the ones that really are memory making. And that's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you have said, and I think you said this the last time we were together, that if someone wanted to buy your business tomorrow, they should be buying the business, not just you. Explain that
Mhm.
for me, would you?
Yeah. So really, if someone was buying the business, they would you can't ever be the thing because then if you step out of that business, does it exist anymore? And you want to make sure that the whole engine can continue to run without one piece or the owner or whatever. It has to be something that exists to be sold. Um, and I think we are on the path for that where we've created something that if somebody wanted to come tomorrow, they could buy the business. It exists in itself on its own. It's not required to have me as part of it. I'm not looking to sell anytime soon. I enjoy what I do, and when I am ready to retire, um, hopefully, maybe one of my kids wants to come and join and take over, so that it's not something that disappears. Because I feel like I put a lot of work into it, and it's a baby that you want to see thrive and grow on its own. But you still want to be part of its life.
No kidding. So what mindset shifts were necessary to move from being the center of everything to building scalable systems and processes? Was that something you had to really sit down and think about? Or did it kind of just tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, go do this?
I actually sat at a conference and listened to someone speak about scaling business and getting out of the way almost of your own business and being able to scale it. You really need to kind of step back. And the book is called Scale or Fail that the woman wrote. And it was really about putting these systems in place. And it was a light bulb because businesses that made the change to pulling the owner out of the day to day as much really did scale and thrive because you put the right systems in place. Right now, you can only do so much. One person can only do so much. And so, if, we would joke sometimes, like, I wish I could clone myself. And and do more. But that's what you are doing. When you're trying to scale and put systems in place, you are essentially cloning yourself, not you, but by bringing somebody else in that can do the same thing. And now there's two people that are able to do that. Or if you want to continue growing, you get three people that are able to do that. And that mindset of saying, it's not about me, it's about the whole. And not that I necessarily thought it was about me in any way. I never really wanted that because I wanted to be able to have freedom and be able to take a vacation and things like that. So you know that if you want that lifestyle or you want that ability, you have to step back enough where that it can continue without you.
And when you hire somebody that can do what you do and probably do it better,
Mhm.
that I mean, you're ahead of the game. I had to do the same thing for the longest kind of time. When I started my web development team, I'm just that person that says, "Do what you're told, nobody gets hurt." I
Yeah.
wanted it done my way, which, as it turns out, was the absolute worst thing I could have done.
Mhm.
And I finally realized that, not only were my team not responding to me, they were doing what I asked them to do and how I asked them to do it, but I could feel it that they resented me. They weren't offering anything. It was malicious
Mm.
compliance, more or
Yeah.
less. I finally just said, "You're about to lose them, all of them or one of them," but, I could feel it, I could sense it, and I had a conversation with everybody and said, "Listen," because when I hire for a specific thing. It may be something to do with a tool. It may be something to do with WordPress, but they are experts because this is their business. They train
Mhm.
consistently, they know what the heck they're doing, and I shouldn't be ordering them to do anything. I've learned to say, "Well, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think?" And all of a sudden, they get very creative. They get very happy because I'm paying attention to their expertise, which has far outstripped mine at
Yeah.
this point because I can't keep up with all that stuff. I don't even try.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And even I learned that lesson from an accounting standpoint. I can get somebody to come in and do our books better than I could ever do it. Now, look, that freed up time for me to do what I'm good at and let them do what they're good at. And, you hire people, you always want people that are better than you as much as possible because that's going to
Yep.
make it whole better.
Oh, it does. And it's hard for us to say, "What do you mean you're better than I am?" Of course they are because they're doing one or two things, as you pointed out,
Yeah.
superbly. They're not scattershotting all over the place, which is what I have been known to do, and it's not healthy, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Kim, what is one marketing mistake that you see businesses making over and over again today that hurts their results? And what should they be doing differently to build, let's talk about it again, trust and create long-term success?
So I think it's the same thing as what we were doing differently in the business, which is trying to get everyone to be your customer. And I've seen businesses be more successful from a marketing standpoint to focus on one area. So, right now, let's just take social media, for example. If you want to market to people and you say, okay, we have budget for social media, you don't want to be on every social media platform because it may not be the right audience for you. You may not be speaking to the right person at the right time by just doing this spray and pray model. So, what you do is you do a reverse engineer of where are my customers really? Or do my customers find themselves on Instagram over Nextdoor or Reddit? Like, where are they? And let's focus on there instead of spreading our dollars too thin and trying to be everywhere because we're not necessarily going to hit the right customer then. And then they say, inevitably, oh, this didn't work. The marketing didn't work. Well, of course it didn't because it was spread too thin to have any statistical relevance. And we're also reaching people that are not the right folks. They're not your right customers. So it's not going to work because they're looking for something different than you're offering. And I think that's, tends to be one of the biggest mistakes initially. And it's exciting to see all the different things that are out there that you can do, but you have to make decisions and start there and then move on.
You really do. I remember a guest I had many, many years ago. This thing is 18 years old. Can you believe 18
Mhm.
years old, it's old enough to drink, drive, or vote? I
Yeah.
won't let it vote or drink or drive. But I've in the middle of the conversation, I've never forgotten this. I he asked me, he said, "Denise, what is it that you do?" And I just went blank, Kim, because nobody
Mhm,
asked me that.
mhm,
I'm the host. I'm asking you questions. I'm trying to, find out what the audience needs to learn from you.
mhm,
And I just drew a complete blank and I said, "Well," and I have to paraphrase now. I said, "Well,
mhm.
I'm a cat herder. I've got cats and a
Yeah,
dog. I've got a computer science degree that nobody cares about but me.
mhm.
My closet looks like Nordstrom wandered in and threw up all over the place. I've got stilettos everywhere, but I'm an introvert and I never go anywhere, but if I do, I've got the shoes."
Yeah,
And I just mentioned a few other things, and I said, I had to kinda wind myself down because I was trying to what is it that I do? Because I did so many things. And I said, "Well, I guess I'm a nerd in stilettos," and he got kinda quiet. He said, "Denise,
mhm,
call me when this is over," and I always do. I always call my
mhm.
guests to say, "Thank you. Can you come back?" And I called him, and he said, "Denise." I said, "Yeah." I didn't know what he was gonna say. He said, "Why have you not branded yourself as a nerd in stilettos?" Here's the
Um,
thing, Kim, when the publicist for the Academy Awards makes a suggestion, you do it.
yeah,
And I thought, well, that's smart because there are no pictures of me on the internet. There never will be. But everybody knows I'm a nerd in stilettos.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No,
S
that's great. That's
You just
amazing.
never know. I know you never know what's gonna happen when you're talking with people or you're committed to learning from them, and I think that's the important thing. You're committed to learning from your own curiosity about the people who surround you.
Mhm.
What are they doing? How can they be helpful?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. You can learn something new every day.
I do too. And, I know I've told you this before, but my guests in so many ways are my mentors because I learned so much from you. I mean, I absolutely do. So when you look back on your journey from launching Always on Digital to where the company is today, what lessons about leadership growth and resilience stand out the most?
Really just making your mission and sticking to it. And for us, it was the initial mission was to provide work-life balance and not being afraid of doing something that's against the grain. Because this was before COVID, before it became socially acceptable to work from home at the level it is. And if you believe in something, it's very easy for the naysayers to kind of come in and make you question it. But your belief is your belief. And so that was, the most important thing for us was really just sticking with the mission and not wavering because that was important and it still is just as important to this day.
And I love what you just said about that because when you know, you know. I know that's
Yeah.
an old phrase, but when you can feel it in your gut and in your heart and you know this is the path you want to take, it's kind of hard to dissuade yourself, isn't it? Even if
Hmm.
you maybe should need to, or I don't know. Once I decide to do something, I just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
And yeah, if we all fall down. Entrepreneurs always fall on our butts at least once a day, but we don't
Mhm.
stay down, I think is my point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you are right.
So, what would you like our audience to know about you that I haven't asked or, brought up?
I would just love them to know that I didn't know what I was doing when I started this. Um, and I think some days I still wonder if I do. I'm just kidding. But so that just, if anything, maybe it gives you the power to believe that you can do it yourself as well. That you can start a business from nothing and just do it. Like you don't have to have the college degree that says you can start a business or have your MBA. Like it's possible for anyone to do something. And if obviously having a business degree would have helped me in some ways, but I was able to do it without it. And don't feel like you have to have something before you can start.
I agree with you. Kim, this has been such a great conversation, and thank you for joining me today and for sharing your insights on building a business with intention and creating systems at scale and staying focused on what you do best. Excuse me, losing my voice. But before we wrap up, I would love to ask one final question, and that's if our listeners remember just one thing from our conversation today, what would you like them most to take away from this conversation?
I think that if you have the ability to become an expert and niche down in your business, to really scale growth, that it's definitely a move worth taking.
Absolutely. And listen, for those of you who would like to connect with you, where can they find you? And where can they continue the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn. It's Kym, Kym, and Insana, Insana. Or you can reach us on our website, which is getalwayson.com.
Got it. Kim, thank you again for be here with me, and it's always a pleasure. And anytime you've got something that you want to share, let me know. I'll get you back on the show, or just stay in touch. And if it's something that you think our audience needs to know, this audience or the one before, shoot me an email and I'll get it out there for you.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise. I appreciate it. I love the conversation today.
Thank you. Me too. Well, listen,
Right.
everybody, that's a wrap on today's episode. And our guest was Kym Insana. Is it Insana or Insana? I'm going to go with Insana. That just works better for me.
That's good.
She's the founder and president of AlwaysOn Digital, which is a multi-million-dollar women-owned marketing agency with over 20 years of experience. And she left her grueling New York City advertising career to build a company that delivers a what is it, 4.1 or four time? How do you want me to say that? 4.1?
Yeah, 4.1 is great. Return on
Okay.
ad spend. Yeah.
Return on ad spend for clients like the U.S. Air Force, Enfamil, that's baby stuff.
Yeah.
Johnson, I've read about it. And Johnston and Murphy, all while raising 4 kids as a working mom. And we talked about why we do it all, maybe why we shouldn't do it all, and how that kind of marketing is holding your business back, and how niching down and specializing helped her scale to multiple, multiple millions, and when to say no to revenue and why it matters, how she built a business around her life instead of the other way around, and the mindset shifts that enabled her agency to thrive without burnout. I am losing my voice. The big takeaway, stop trying to serve everyone. She says that specialization is the path to clarity, expertise, and real. Um, Thank you for joining us. And I am Denise Griffiths, and I will see you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Kim, again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Denise.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffiths at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.